rise, the court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Victor is presiding. Thank you. You may be seated. The court is now in session. We call case number 19590, Crocker vs Sundance, now in session. Is the prosecution ready?
Yes, sir.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, we are ready, Your Honor.
We will now hear the opening statement from the prosecution.
Thank you, and good morning, Your Honor, and esteemed members of the court. Last name Watts, first initial G, and it is my privilege to be representing Mr. William Crocker. Mr. McLean is the representing defendant. Your Honor, this is a case of gross negligence and breach of duty of care. On the 22nd of March, 1980, Sundance Resort held a promotional event where contestants raced in tubes down a mogul field in a bid to win $200. Through the course of this trial, you will hear from the victim, Mr. Crocker. He will tell you in his own words what transpired and where Sundance failed him, which ultimately resulted in him being left quadriplegic. You will also hear from several witnesses to the event, which will aid you in making your decision. Today, we will hear from Mr. Crocker, Ms. Durno, the resort manager, and Mr. Evoy, who is competing in the event with my client. I will prove to you that Mr. Crocker is indeed the victim and is fully deserving of compensation for the life-altering injuries that he sustained that day.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. Would the defendants like to give their opening statement?
Yes, thank you. May it please the court, Your Honor. Good morning, I'm Bill McLean. I represent Ms. Durno, who is the manager of Sundance Resort as well as the race marshal of the tubing competition. I am here to defend my client and prove that the incident which occurred on the 22nd March wasn't the fault of Sundance Resort. There are many factors contributing to the lead up and occurrence of the event, which we will explore here today. Mr. Crocker signed legal documents and informed the risk during the pre-event meeting and was advised not to participate. Today, we will cross-examine witness to the event, which will prove that my client isn't at fault here and Mr. Crocker should be held accountable for his action on that day. As the defense, we will question Mr. Crocker, Ms. Facilia Jones, who was on the registration desk on that day, and Ms. Bonnie Day, who served alcohol to Mr. Crocker leading up to the event. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Prosecution, please call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Prosecution would like to call Mr. Crocker to the stand. Mr. Crocker, please explain to me the events leading up to you signing the release form 3 days prior to the event.
On March 19, Rick and I were in the resort bar drinking and watching a promo video of the previous year's competition. After watching, we decided we wanted to register and compete in the event. We walked to the registration office drunk and paid $15 for entrance fee and signed what we later found was the release form.
At any point, were you informed that you were signing legally binding documents accepting responsibility for yourself?
No. I didn't read the form fully, and at no point did the personnel at the registration desk mention that it was a real legal form. I thought it was a form for the registration for the event.
During this interaction, did the individual registering you clarify that you understood what you were signing?
No, there was no point where I was informed that it was legally binding or that I understood the risk that I was personally taking on.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Crocker, am I right in understanding that on the day of the event, there was a pre-event meeting where there was a safety talk? Please describe to the court what state of mind you were in at this time.
Before and during this meeting, Envoy and I had been drinking and were under the influence at the time. We were openly drinking during the meeting and nobody said that it wasn't allowed.
So, to clarify, the event staff witnessed you drinking during the safety meeting?
Yes. Throughout the meeting, they witnessed us drinking alcohol and no staff saw the need to intervene.
Now, to the event in question. Am I right in thinking that you were in an impaired state prior to the first heat of the competition? Please explain what transpired during the first heat of the race.
Yes, during this time we were both very drunk, having consumed large quantities of alcohol. During the first leg of the race, Rick and I were in a single tube to share. The race, we were launched into the air and hit one of the moguls. This resulted us in having injuries. Rick cut one of his fingers and I received a cut above my eye. In the end, despite our injuries, we won the first heat and qualified for the second round.
Did you consume any more alcohol after the first heat?
I did. After the first heat, I was offered a bottle of brandy, which I took large gulps of. My memory at this point was very clouded. I can't hardly remember walking back up to the hill.
After you sustained your initial injuries, did anyone intervene or inquire about your well-being?
Yes, the resort owner, Mr. Beals, asked about my injuries and my condition at the time. After joking with Mr. Beals that I was fine, he said that I shouldn't probably continue. The resort manager, Miss Durno, suggested that I should drop out. She didn't seem too concerned at the matter was dropped.
To confirm, both Mr. Beals and Miss Durno both saw the state that you were in after your first heat?
Yes, both were very aware of my physical and mental state at the time.
Mr. Crocker, please tell the court what occurred before the second heat. Did you consume more alcohol at this time?
We did. Rick and I went to the resort bar, obviously intoxicated and injured. At the bar, I was served 2 drinks.
Was there anything visible that would indicate that you were competing in a dangerous event that day?
Yes, all of us were wearing competitors' bibs.
Thank you, Mr. Crocker. Can you please enlighten the court on your state prior to the second heat? Would you state that you were visibly intoxicated prior to the second round?
Going into the second event, I fell and lost my tube. I think it went down the slope.
Did any staff witness this?
Yes, I think Miss Durno was present and saw everything. At this point, she said that it would be a good idea if I shouldn't continue.
Did she stop you from competing?
No. After saying that, she allowed me to continue after a slight protest.
Now, Mr. Crocker, would you please tell the court what happened during your second heat?
After drinking all day, the terrain was too much for us. We were going too fast, lost control over a mogul, and crashed with a lot of force. I was thrown into the air and then landed on my neck.
Am I right in saying that the impact was what rendered you a quadriplegic?
Yes, it was an instant. The second I landed on my neck, it changed my life.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. Does the defense have any questions for Mr. Crocker?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to question Mr. Crocker. Okay, Mr. Crocker, could you confirm that you were heavily intoxicated on the afternoon of March 19?
Yes, I was very drunk and I registered.
Okay, so can you tell the court whether you remember paying the registration fee? If so, how much was it?
I do remember that time, and I paid $15.
Okay, so Mr. Crocker, you were clear-headed enough to remember registering and how much the fee was, yet you say you were too drunk to read the document you were signing.
But I wasn't made aware that I was signing a legal document.
So is it true that you become aggressive when Ms. Durno attempted to persuade you from competing and insisted on continuing despite their suggestion you stop?
I wouldn't say I became aggressive. I had been drinking all day and might have come across too strong. However, I would not say I was too hostile towards Ms. Durno.
Thank you. Your Honor, no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Does the prosecution have any more witnesses to call to the stand at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Prosecution calls Mr. Evoy to the stand. Mr. Evoy, can you confirm to the court that you were drinking with Mr. Crocker the day of the registration and also the day of the event?
Yes, I was drinking with him on both occasions.
And you were present when he sustained his injuries?
Yes, I was there with William, and we hit one of the moguls and crashed with a lot of force.
The day of the registration, did you read through the legal document?
No, I was not made aware that was a legal document, and no one told me. Everybody was having a good time and a laugh, and it just didn't seem serious.
Thank you, Mr. Evoy. Thank you, Your Honor. Prosecution rests.
Mr. McLean, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
No questions for Mr. Evoy, sir. We call to the stand Miss Bonnie Day, who serves Mr. Crocker at the bar on the day of the event. Miss Day, how long have you been working at the bar in Sundance Hotel?
Like 2 years. I gotta say, the boss was pretty much a hard ass, and all the people I worked with were just terrible.
Miss Day, please get to the point.
2 years. I worked there for 2 years.
Okay, so please tell to the court about your day leading up to serving Mr. Crocker, please.
Well, I got up and I had breakfast, and then my shift started at 10 a.m. and then around 3, these fellas came in ordered a drink.
So, Miss Day, have you been trained properly for the position at the bar?
I think so.
Okay. So were you aware that the gentlemen were already drunk?
Well, yeah, but they didn't seem too smashed. Like, they weren't slurring or anything. I just thought they were typical dudes in a bar.
Okay. And did you notice that they were wearing competitors' bits?
Yeah, they wouldn't shut up about their win. Like, I'd be impressed.
Well, despite them being drunk and competing in dangerous competition, you still served them both 2 drinks each?
Well, yeah, they were paying. And they were tipping well. I didn't know they were hammered. I didn't know they'd get hurt either.
Well, no further questions, Your Honor.
Does the prosecution have any questions for the witness?
I do, Your Honor. Miss Day, did the organizers of the event highlight to you the importance of not over-serving those participating in an event, dangerous as it was?
No, they've never told us to not serve competitors. It's a bar. I'm a bartender. You order a drink, I'm gonna serve you.
Thank you, Miss Day. Thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution has no further questions for the witness.
Does the prosecution want to call another witness at this time?
No, Your Honor. I'd like to take a moment to discuss with my client.
Very well. Does the defendants have another witness to call to the stand?
Your Honor, we call Miss Felicia Jones to the stand. Miss Jones, can you tell the court what your role was on the day of 19th March?
Yep. I was on the registration desk signing people up for the competition.
So, Miss Jones, please tell the court about when you met Mr. Crocker and Mr. Evoy.
Sure. I started my shift earlier that day at like 9 a.m. Around 1, these 2 guys came in and they wanted to register, so I registered them and then they went on with their day.
And would you say you received adequate training for the position?
To the best of my knowledge, yeah.
Miss Jones, did you know that you have to tell the guests that they are signing a legal document?
Yes, but I didn't realize how serious the situation was. I didn't feel the need to read him the fine print.
Have you been told that you should not let someone who is clearly drunk enter a competition?
Yes, but in my defense, people enter things drunk all the time. It's not against the rules, so I didn't think I was doing the wrong thing.
Okay. So were you aware of how drunk he was?
I knew he was drunk, but he was still coherent and he wasn't making a scene, so I thought everything was fine.
Okay. And you did not confirm to him that he was signing a legal document?
No, I didn't.
So, okay, you confirm that. So no further questions, Your Honor.
Would the prosecution like to cross-examine Ms. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Jones, to clarify, you were on shift at the ticket booth. Crocker and Avoy came up intoxicated to register for said event. You registered them without informing them that that was a legal document, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true.
So, leading up to this event, Did you know that you neglected to inform my client of the severity of this form?
That's true.
Do you think that if you had informed them that we would be in court right now?
That could be true, but if I had told them, they would have signed up anyways. They just wanted to have a good time. As a front desk agent, I've seen many people do things under the influence. And I assumed this was one of those times. And I'm really sorry that everything happened the way they did.
No further questions for the witness. Your Honor, we would like to call our last witness, Ms. Durno, to the stand. Ms. Durno, am I correct in saying that you were the organizer of the event?
Yes, I organized the event. Same with the event we held last year, and it was a success. Nobody got hurt. So I didn't anticipate this happening.
We heard previously that you saw Mr. Crocker during the event and mentioned to him about his intoxicated state. Why didn't you stop him from competing?
He had signed the legal papers. I assumed that he understood the risks and that he'd take care of himself.
Yet you commented about his drunken state prior to his crash. Don't you think it was your responsibility to take care of those taking part in your event?
Yeah, I did comment about how drunk he was and that he shouldn't continue, but I didn't press him any further.
Thank you, Ms. Durno. No further questions.
Mr. McLean, do you have any questions for Ms. Durno?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Durno, how many people participated in the event?
There were 8 partners, so 16 people.
So 16 people. That's quite a lot for participants to keep an eye on, right?
Yeah, I was very busy. There was no way I could keep track of everybody.
Yes, that does sound like you had your hands full. Ms. Durno, can you confirm to the court that you warned Mr. Crocker not to participate in the second round of the competition, but he refused your advice?
I did tell them that they shouldn't continue, but they were being a little bit aggressive. They just wouldn't listen.
Thank you, Ms. Durno. No further question, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I think we can all agree that Sundance Resort and the organizer of the event didn't pay my client the duty of care that he was due. This gross negligence led to his life-altering injuries. Mr. Crocker may never be able to walk again, to work again. Everything in his life has been changed. The fact that the defense have put into question their responsibility is an injustice which must be rectified. Mr. Crocker only wants what is owed to him: financial aid in paying for his medical bills and ensuring that he is comfortable in the future. Sundance Resort failed to ensure Mr. Crocker knew he was signing an illegally binding agreement. They failed when they served him drinks, and they failed when they allowed him to compete in his clouded state. In short, Your Honor, Sundance failed to protect my client from harm, and for this that they should be held accountable. The evidence supplied by the defending counsel hasn't confirmed their innocence in the matter. In fact, Ms. Durno agreed that she failed to stop my inebriated client from participating in a dangerous event. Ms. Day confirmed that she served my client, and Ms. Jones told the court that she didn't point out that he was signing a legal document. Yes, there were faults of the individuals, but don't you agree that the most to blame here is Sundance Resort, who failed to ensure these individuals were carrying out their roles safely? Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, according to all the facts we have today, I believe my clients, Ms. Durno and Mr. Bills, have been found innocent because, based on the fact that Mr. Crocker signed the waiver and decided not to read it, he chose to ignore to listen the risk and liability statement before the competition due to his intoxicated condition. Moreover, Ms. Jones has been trained properly before she did her jobs on the afternoon of March 19, but she did not do at what she has been trained. And Ms. Day, who also has been trained before serving alcohol, did neglect the risk abilities related to Mr. Crocker by serving him 2 alcohol drinks after the first competition. Even he was truly intoxicated at that time. All of these facts lead to the unwanted accident, as we know. So I believe Ms. Day, Ms. John, and Mr. Crocker are the ones who must be found liable for this case. That's the end of my final statement, Your Honor.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the court. I will announce the final decision. After much consideration and careful review of the witnesses' statements and evidence, I, Judge Victor, have decided Sundance Resort compensate Mr. Crocker with a sum of $200,000. With this decision, Sundance Resort will accept 75% of the responsibility of what happened on the 22nd of March. Mr. Crocker, after hearing from both parties, I've come to the decision that although you were of clouded mind, you were drunk of your own choice and knowingly competed in a dangerous event. For this reason, you will be held accountable for 25% of the responsibility. Court adjourned.
The 22nd of March, 2000. Fuck.
We're at the resort drinking.
Did you consume any more alcohol after your first heat? Fuck me, Jesus.
Going into the second event, I felt, and what?
Mr. McLean, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Prosecution.
Yes, that does sound like your hand had.
Fuck. I didn't press anything, apparently. Okay, ready? 3. Oh shit, I'm filming.
I was very busy. There was no way I could keep track of everybody.
And then bang, bang, bang. Okay, ready?